Facebook right now. We are also live on YouTube. We're simulcasting. Hey!
We figured out the double cast.
Yeah, we use that term "we" very loosely. I worked very hard, and you didn't have much to do with it. Not that I'm mad. I'm not. But no, welcome, and we're going to be posting this on. Put in a few different support groups on Facebook, and we'll be, just expanding all the time. So please, if you're watching, you're listening, please start a watch party, share the thing, do whatever you need to do to anybody who you think this would add value for.
We're here for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half, talking about different mental health issues, particularly anxiety, panic attacks, depersonalization. We just want to help. We just want to help and explore the kind of questions people have. If you have a question, please post it. Please let us know. That's what we're mainly here for. We want to talk to you. We want to see what's going on. And yeah, just post your questions and we'll try to answer every single one.
Definitely. And so today our topic is the mind, the connection of the mind and the nervous system and how it pertains to anxiety. And Ennis wanted to specifically talk about the nervous system and its tie to your mind and also other systems in your body. Is that right?
Yeah. So the nervous system is, your filter of all your experiences, every perception, every feeling, literally everything you see, hear, touch, taste, smell is filtered through your nervous system. And so when your nervous system gets stimulated or kind of on edge, then things feel weird. You start to get anxiety, you start to get into a fight or flight response. People experience all sorts of weird symptoms, honestly. Things like depersonalization, things like panic attacks, sweaty palms, fast heart rates.
It's wild.
It can get really weird.
Really wild. Weird symptoms sometimes too that are like inexplicable that freak people out.
Yeah, and so basically what I'd love for both of us to explore is how the nervous system creates these symptoms, and more importantly, what can we do to actually cool down our nervous system to make it more optimized for calm, focus, joy. This doesn't have to be a total mystery, right? Your nervous system wants to be healthy. It wants to function normally. It's constantly trying to heal. And so there are some things that we can do to help it heal. And there are some things that we can stop doing to stop damaging it. A lot of the reason that we have such a overstimulated nervous system is our thought patterns. Basically, we're kind of spooking ourselves all the time. When we have a scary thought and we believe it, it throws us into a kind of, overstimulated place. So because of that, we're trying to really get into the details of how do you calm down that nervous system.
Yeah, it's tricky because it's while it's rooted in the thoughts, it's also triggered.
That gum, I can hear you chewing.
Oh, am I chewing like a horse? My bad.
Sorry, everybody.
Sorry,
you hear
Mr. Ennis.
Chewing in there. No gum in class time.
I was focused on what I was. Yeah, sorry. Good. Word up. What's up, Sal? What's up, Eddie? Guys, feel free to check in the chat. Let us know how you're doing. Let us know what's going on. How about the reward system in your head? It's a good thing to bring up.
The reward system in your head. What do you mean by that?
I think he means like just we have like how we trigger our reward system. So like getting surges of different neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and how our animalistic brain is wired to do the thing that brings us kind of pleasure instantly. Now we as the prefrontal cortex having human beings can process what things are, feel good now, but are terrible in the long run. But, animals can't really do that. And so a piece of the nervous system is definitely just that really simple reward system, that thing that keeps you, using drugs or eating sugar or, having any compulsion or addiction is rooted in that reward system. Now, there's a lot to kind of break down within that relationship, but I think that's what Sal's talking about. Sal, correct me if I'm wrong. No running by the pool. I don't know what that means, but
I think he's playing off the no chewing.
Oh, yeah,
class.
No chewing gum.
Yeah. So yeah, it is interesting. Like as a species, we evolved in a certain, climate. We evolved in a certain environment, and because of that, we are wired to operate in certain ways. So when we hear a rustling and we don't know what it is, we're rewarded to feel fear. We're rewarded to be cautious about that unknown so that we're more likely to survive. And I think this gets people in the modern time because our day-to-day lives right now in air-conditioned rooms and grocery stores are very different from what we evolved to experience. And so because of that, there's a mismatch where we're drawn to foods like sugar and salt, and we fall for the traps of instant gratification on our phone and with certain content. We're really, really easy to trick, actually. Our brain comes with all sorts of biases and ways to delude ourselves, basically. You're kind of fighting an uphill game at times with all these programmings. But I think the more you become aware of it and the more you realize, I am influenced by these ancient environmental factors. I am driven to do certain things because of my genetics. But I can choose to override that. I can choose to calm myself down. So here's a good example for anyone listening. Our nervous system has two primary modes. You can think of it as the fight or flight mode and the calm, relaxing mode. Now, there's more scientific ways to describe this. You can get into the parasympathetic, the sympathetic nervous system, all that stuff. But in general, we're just going to break it down in the fight or flight, kind of stressed out mode, and the calm, relaxed, peaceful mode. Okay, so when you are breathing really, really quickly, you're basically triggering to your mind and to your brain and your nervous system that there's some kind of threat happening. You're triggering to your nervous system that you need a lot of oxygen going through you so that you're alert and you're ready to fight or run or just take care of something that's happening. When you're breathing really slowly, you're triggering and communicating to your nervous system that actually everything is okay. There's no need to worry. There's no need to be on high alert, and that you can feel calm relatively. And this is all done with chemicals in your body like cortisol and adrenaline. And when you're experiencing these emotions of stress, fear, anxiety, basically what's happening is your nervous system is on high alert, and these chemicals are flooding through your body. So there's many reasons for why your body is going into this mode, right? Some of them can be old traumas, old emotions that are coming up. You might be getting triggered in certain ways. Maybe you're just thinking negative thoughts, thinking about the future, thinking about what might happen, and you're scaring yourself, basically. And that's putting you in a high alert mode. So one of the things that we fundamentally teach through our sessions and through our courses is how to calm down your nervous system so that it's just more functional. How to calm down the nervous system so that it's optimized to be relaxed, focused, and overall peaceful. So number one, you want to practice certain breathing methods. This is, you hear people talk about breathing methods all the time. And that's because they really do work. If you do them correctly, they can really have a major impact on your nervous system. So here's one that you can practice right now. As we're speaking, you can try to induce a yawn. Okay, so we're going to try to induce a yawn. We're going to yawn on purpose. A yawn is basically the body's way of releasing stress. It's a really natural way to let go of some intense emotions. And it's what happens when you're in a calm, relaxed state. It's very difficult to yawn and be in a fight or flight response, right? So here's how we do it. We take 2 inhalations through the nose, followed by a long exhalation. And so this is what it should sound like. Okay, so I hope you saw that and you heard it. It's basically 2 inhalations through the nose, followed by a long exhalation. And what this does is it literally communicates to your body, to your nervous system, that things are okay, that you're not under danger. Now, this is one breathing technique. There's another one called box breathing. This is used by Navy SEALs, where you breathe in a 4-4-4 pattern. And that's basically 4 seconds inhalation, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhalation, 4 seconds hold. And if you'd like, we can do that together right now. So let's start with the exhalation. Always start with the exhalation.
And you're just signaling to your nervous system. First of all, you're balancing those CO2 and oxygen levels, and you're signaling to your nervous system that let's slow down, like there's no threat. And there's just going to be some residual time for the adrenaline and everything to run through your body. So it's not about it ending instantly. It's about starting the end. Does that make sense?
That's a great way to put it.
Starting the end of it so that it's like you can, once you start that box breathing, then you can, in the distance, see the light at the end of the tunnel.
The analogy that I love to use for this is the fan blade. So when you've got a fan going, it's basically, it's got momentum to it. It's got very real momentum. So when you unplug it, even though the electricity is gone, it's still going to be spinning for a little bit until the momentum goes away. Your body is the same way. You've got a momentum of emotions and chemicals that are running through your system. And so when you're sitting there and feeling a certain way, you basically have to let yourself calm down for like 5 or 10 minutes. And so basically it doesn't happen instantly, but as Jim said, you are starting the end.
Right.
And so both of those breathing techniques, when you first start them, just keep doing it for like 5 minutes. And within 5 to 10 minutes, you'll notice your entire system start to calm down. You're entering that peaceful, relaxed mode as opposed to the fight or flight mode.
I want to share something.
Go ahead, please.
I'd like to share something with the monumental audience at home here. I've been on this kick of talking to clients and also telling myself this, okay? And that is that you and us individually.
All of us.
Yeah, all of us individually. We're like a major metropolitan city. Just all this hot mess of bones and structure and, anxiety and whatever. We are like this amazingly busy metropolitan center. We got blood flowing through. We've got cells bringing nutrients to other cells. We've got kidneys that are filtering our blood. We've got a brain that's got 8 bazillion thoughts going on at once. We've got physical symptoms going on. We've got all kinds of emotions being activated, and there's so much that goes on in your mind and body and spirit and the way you impact the world. There's so much to that what we're trying to do is manage and balance everything as best we can. And I feel like that's like the big thing to know about not just your nervous system, but the connection of your nervous system with your genetics, with your thought patterns, with all of it, with your gut health, with your hormone levels, with all these different systems. If any one of these systems is way out of whack, it throws everything out of whack. And so what you're trying to do is just optimize each system. And we're talking about our nervous system right now, but we're spilling over into the overlap of like thoughts and emotions, which impacts and is impacted by our nervous system. But this whole major metropolitan area, I mean, I'm talking like air traffic controllers and planes coming in and landing and taxi cabs and people taking the subway and skyscraper. Like, you're just this massive, busy system. And I feel like people think like our brain is this, we're like in the pilot seat behind our eyes in our brain. And that's like, you know what I mean? That's where we are.
Right.
And then there's just all this other stuff going on there, you know. But you don't think about like your blood's flowing, your breath is coming in. And so the reason this is useful in talking about mental health and anxiety is like these, you know, these parts of your city are firing. Like, you know, you're this part, one part of your brain is detecting a threat and it's telling this other part to release all these chemicals and stuff, right? And so that mechanism might be even more apt to be triggered because you've taken a bunch of drugs or you've taken a bunch of caffeine or you upped yourself. And what you have to be in the business of to balance your mental health is balancing all these different systems in your body.
I love it, man. You're right. We are a very complex system, and the best that you can do is balance all those things. And if any one thing is out of whack, it's going to be felt in the entire system. So if your digestion and your gut health is gone, that's going to be affecting everything. If you're
cause inflammation, which is going to mess with the rest of your system. If your nervous system's overstimulated, if you're not exercising and releasing and balancing your hormones and that. Let's get to Cheryl's comment here.
Yeah.
Cheryl says, I'm finding that the box breathing needs to be practiced before the panic attack begins because once you're in the panic attack, it's hard to get it. Cheryl, I feel you. I think, we advocate, like our book is called The Panic Response Plan. And that's what it is. It's a plan to put in place. So you feel ready when it happens. And the more you instill these skills when panic or anxiety or high emotions aren't happening, the better it's the same as like muscle memory for training for sport.
Yeah, on that note, I feel like everybody struggles with that on some level where in the middle of the experience, it's really hard to keep your wits about you. Whether that's a panic attack or anger or whatever it is. Yeah. It's like in the middle of that emotional surge, it's easy to forget all the stuff that can help you. And you end up feeling like, there's nothing I can do. Why is this happening to me? But there's so much that you can actually do in that moment. It's just a matter of remembering. And how do you remember? Well, you got to practice. It's like you said, a plan that you make before that happens so that you know, okay, if I start to feel this way, I can enact this method. I can try this practice. I can do this exercise. And I mean, it's helpful to run almost like drills. You know what I mean? Like in the military, they have drills. And in your real life, if you know that you get panic attacks or you have anger issues or whatever it may be, if you have any way to predict how you're going to feel, then by all means prepare for that. Meditate if you need to before. Eat right that morning. Do whatever you need to do to remind yourself of the best response so that you're not just kind of, caught off guard.
Staying ahead of the game is like the key in a lot of life, in a lot of just dealing with anxiety. It's everything from having a financial safety net to practicing meditation to cultivate mindfulness. It's also your overall existence is great, but especially at the peaks of emotion, when emotion gets really high, your kind of ability to process and ability to use your intellect to sensibly work through a problem goes way down. Those are completely, I don't know what the term is, inversely connected, whatever. But the key is that it's just like taking care of your body. Like, you don't start exercising during a heart attack, just like you wouldn't try to implement a foreign plan during a panic attack. It's like if you're jogging while you're having a heart attack, I should have taken care of No, you take care of your body so you don't have the heart attack. Or if you have a little bit of a heart issue, your body's more apt to be able to handle it much more effectively and wonderfully.
For sure.
And guys, just before we move on, we're experimenting with some new promotional stuff, and we want to let people know that anybody who messages us on Facebook or emails us on the emails below during this live stream, we're going to offer a free session, as long as you're not already a client, a free one-on-one session free one-on-one call with NSRI to a strategy session, we call them.
Yeah, if you've never talked to us before, we'd love to meet you. We'd love to have a chat with you. During these 45-minute calls, we can just dive into whatever's going on, give you some really personalized feedback. And just send us a message and we'll be happy to offer that. So moving on, we wanted to talk about the entire nervous system and its connection to the mind. Besides breathing techniques, there's so much that you can do to optimize your nervous system. And once you get the nervous system down, you'll notice your anxiety is going down. If you have depersonalization or derealization, that'll start to get better. If you're having trouble sleeping, that'll start to improve. All kinds of things in your life will begin to improve as your nervous system becomes more healthy. Jim, what would you recommend in terms of exercise and diet and just kind of lifestyle principles, how to optimize the nervous system?
I mean, the foundation is that you just do what you can to start. Like, everybody's life is busy. But as far as exercise, I think you take whatever you think you need and you pretty much triple it. Minimum. Like, for so long, we were such an active species. And I was streaming earlier today, and we were talking about just the staggering statistics of anxiety and mental illness altogether. It's like in the tens of millions, and those are just reported diagnoses. You want to talk about a pandemic? Like, anxiety is a damn pandemic, like, no doubt, way higher than coronavirus and spreading like that.
And fear is literally contagious.
Fear, yeah, in more ways than one, my friend. And Stephanie Stoltz. That's a cool name. Stephanie. Okay, Stephanie Stoltz. We'll get to your question in a second. We're just going to finish this point here. The necessity for activity, just physical activity. Let's talk about that. The nervous system and moving and burning, and the endorphins it releases, the chemicals that it releases to exercise. It's absolutely essential to feel good and healthy sustainably. And so, what's your question? Are you looking for a recommendation of a regimen? Are you looking for just how important it is? Because it's paramount. Let me say that again. Paramount.
Oh man, I was really just kind of hoping for a general perspective. I mean, you obviously shared one. We can move on to Stephanie's question. She says, during the transition out of anxiety, is it normal to have amazing moments of freedom and joy, and then when you realize you're right at the peak of that joy, a random thought that you're enjoying things, and you shouldn't be, happens? What's the quickest way to pull yourself back into the joy and let go? Yeah,
that's so normal.
I had that all the time.
Wicked normal. Yeah, that's totally normal. To me, it's a part of your mind typically that is scared of going back there. That's like scared to be comfortable so that it'll be caught off guard and just like it'll kind of shatter you or cause you to go into depression. Because those depressions really come when you feel stuck in anxiety, like if you feel stuck in a certain way of life. And so, I think it's Stephanie. Stephanie, put your pronunciation of your name in the chat, please, so we can make sure we're not calling you the wrong thing. But yeah, that's completely normal. The quickest way to pull yourself back into the joy and let go, it doesn't exactly work like that, does it? You can't exactly pull yourself back in the joy. I think the best thing you can do is just let the thought pass. Don't identify with it. Don't give it more merit than it deserves. Just know that, hey, well, there's a thought there.
Yeah, you're really cultivating indifference. You're basically trying to make it to where whether you feel great or whether you feel terrible is just an experience at the end of the day. You're not letting that define your life. A lot of like what people do is they judge themselves on top of the emotion. So it's like, oh, I feel good, therefore I'm a good person and people will like me. Oh, I feel bad, therefore I'm a bad person and no one's going to like me. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my family. So the story that you add to the emotion makes it less stable and can make things worse. If you're feeling bad, just let that be enough. You're feeling bad. Oh, well. And you don't even have to describe it as like, now, at the same time, like I understand how that sounds. It's like feeling bad can be really, really terrible sometimes. And I get that. However, don't make it worse by telling a story about it and saying, this is going to last forever. People are going to judge me for this. I shouldn't be feeling like this. All of that just kind of adds to the loop. So an attitude of, oh, well, I guess I'm feeling bad right now, or I guess this is what I'm feeling right now, is super helpful, because you are not putting this expectation on yourself, this added pressure of, I need to feel this way now. That joyful moment will naturally come in the absence of expectations and resistance. In the absence...
Say that again. Yeah, that's important. The absence of expectation
and resistance. Your joy is there naturally. It's your default state. There's nothing you need to do to create it. It's just being covered up right now. And it's being covered up by resistance and expectations. So let go of those two things and the joy will be there.
Definitely. Noelle says, and I see that it's Stephanie. I like how it's spelled. It's exotic. It's taking a common name, making it a little more exotic. Good work. Good work to your parents. Noelle says, since my surgery, I've had anxiety attacks one day. I'm happy then another day. I'm lower than the ground. How do I get back to having a positive attitude and energy? Well, what's causing the panic attacks? Is there a clear trigger? Is it random? Are you feeling worried about something in particular? Give me a little more information, Noelle. That's going to be essential. Definitely essential. And guys, just to remind you, to Stephanie, anybody else interested, anybody who messages us on Facebook or sends us an email to one of the emails in the description under the title here, we are offering a free first-time strategy session, coaching session, one-on-one with Ennis or I, as our way of kind of giving back, trying to help people through their panic attacks and anxiety. This live stream is fantastic, but the one-on-one calls are really tailored to you and really great to give you some steps that you can take to move forward. So if you want to send us a message here on Facebook or email us, jim@innersolutions.academy or ennis@innersolutions.academy. Shoot us a line and we'll be in touch to set up a free strategy session. Because we're givers, man. We give. We want to help. We really are here to help, though, aren't we?
I mean, at the end of the day, that sounds so cheesy to say that, but it's like, it really is true. Me and Jim, we went through panic attacks. So, like, Noelle, when I hear you say that you're having panic attacks, I really know how much that sucks. So I'm really sorry about that. I hope that we can help you with like different answers to your question. But to anybody listening, at the end of the day, if you're tired of people not understanding, if you're tired of feeling like everyone I talk to just gives me, some random advice that doesn't work, or some, medication or something like that. Look, we're just two guys that have been there and actually felt this way. So
for so long. I struggled for so long, dude. Like, so long. And it sucked. And we tried everything. Yeah. We had to figure it out. What's up?
Let's get
to your finger.
I want to get to Katie's question, because that's Kate.
Let Kate know about the free,
For sure.
We're givers, dude. We're givers.
You're cracking me up. So I have a lot of clients that have that fear of going over bridges and driving in particular.
Driving anxiety is a big one. And it's more, I find that for them, they're worried, they're suffering from other symptoms they're scared will kick up while they're driving. Like she's saying, why don't you read her thing? Because I'm too old and I can't see.
I haven't been able to drive on the interstate in several years. So interstate in particular, so back roads are okay. And she said, because I have severe panic attacks, I start shaking and feel like I'm going to faint. I also fear crossing bridges. Any suggestions? So in our experience, panic attacks can make you feel... you can avoid situations where it'd be really bad to have a panic attack. So places like on the interstate or over a bridge or at a party or during an important presentation, you avoid those situations because of the thought, what if I have a panic attack during that situation? And the idea is, if I had a panic attack during that situation, I wouldn't be able to handle it, or something really bad would happen. And so it becomes more difficult to to be able to handle a panic attack in that situation and to be able to calm it down once it initiates. Because then the reason why is there's more resistance to it. Okay, when you're at home alone and you're starting to feel a panic attack coming on, it's easier to say, "Oh well, I guess I'm about to have a panic attack," and it's easier to not resist that experience. That's why it's easier to handle it. But when you're driving, or in a really important moment where in your mind it's important not to have a panic attack, then that ability to not resist and to just let it happen it's really difficult. So there's a couple things that you can do when it comes to driving in particular. Number one is to prepare yourself for it and practice under easier conditions. So if you can't get on the interstate, that's okay. Practice on smaller roads, like safe, simple roads by your neighborhood. If you can't do that, then practice around your cul-de-sac or just your driveway. Just do something. And the idea is you actually want to try to have, and I know this is going to sound scary, but you're going to try to have a panic attack in the car. So when you're in the driveway, for example, and you start to feel that anxious feeling coming on, then you let it happen. You invite it in. You say, okay, let's see where this goes, because I know I'm safe. I know I'm not going to pass out. I know I'm not going to die or go crazy. I know I'm going to remain in control. So let's see where this goes, and let's invite it in and accept it without any resistance. Of course, if you feel like you're actually about to make a wreck or something, pull over or, go somewhere where there's no people. But if you can, find somewhere like an empty parking lot where you can practice this stuff and let that anxiety build and feel it. Teach yourself and show yourself that you can handle it in those situations. Now, when it comes to things like bridges, that's a slightly different story in my experience, because it's like it becomes more of a phobia where you feel like I really, really can't let go of the steering wheel right now, or all sorts of intense images might pop into your mind of, oh, what if I go over the bridge? And there can be an overwhelm because of that. Fundamentally, exposure therapy is probably best in that situation, where you can start off by, at the very low end, looking at pictures of bridges, higher end, visualizing yourself driving over bridges, and maybe getting in the car and letting somebody else drive over the bridge. But fundamentally, there's a lack of trust. You think that something bad is going to happen while you're driving. You think that you're going to lose control in some way. And as you get more and more comfortable handling those panic attacks, you realize that actually, no, I am in control. I am okay right now. And I'm not going to just suddenly fly off the steering wheel. I hope that helps. Please.
That's a good answer, dude.
Please.
That was very thorough, very well thought out, very useful. He's a what a guy.
Please.
What a guy.
Thank you, man. Do you have anything to add, or?
No, dude. You did great. You did a fantastic job.
Please, let me know if that helps, Kate. Please have a follow-up. Noelle says, if you scroll up, Noelle had a question.
She wanted to talk to you.
Well, there was another thing there. So, she said, certain people want me to be someone that I don't want to be. I feel like you're the man on this section.
God, yeah. Boy.
Jim's really good at
everything, but also
well, mainly not letting people put expectations on him, or put things on him like to be a certain way. You know what I mean?
It's hard though, because I struggle with it. I think most of us with high anxiety would say, or at least social anxiety would agree that we have a high level of sensitivity, if anything else. Does that make sense? Like we're sensitive. We're sensitive to what people say. We're a little reactive. And so the goal here, Noelle, is to get out of that state of reactivity and into a state of like receptivity, but also high emotional boundaries, meaning what anybody else says about you has very little, if not nothing, to do with you. It has to do with them and their opinions and their judgments. And that sounds like the age-old, man, somebody trying to talk to you like this, they gonna. I understand that, but it's actually really true that a person's reaction to you is kind of what it's happening to you now, Noel. You're having a reaction to them, and so your reaction to what they do is where your power / decision can be made. So the first thing you do is just stop. Don't do anything. Now that's a very vague statement saying that certain people want me to be someone that I don't want to be. So if you can get more specific about that in the chat, Noel, that would be great. But a general rule of thumb, because I had this surgery on myself, but all people want me to be skinny and someone I am not. So when you're dealing with judgments for other people, first of all, you try to meet people at their intention and you try to understand their intention. And so if you don't know what the intention is of people telling you to try to be skinny, it's time to start asking, well, why do you want me to be skinny? What is it? Now, if they say things like, well, for your health, for your, so we want you around because we love you, then it's a different energy to it. But also, you can start to develop a deeper connection with them to coach them on how to talk to you, which is like, hey, by the way, like, I don't like it when you tell me that I need to be skinny, because for me, I'm a little sensitive to it. It kind of, I can feel myself feeling insecure or being a little more restricted around you. And so maybe what you can do is, instead of focusing on the skinny part, focus on the how much you love me and how much you want me around and how much you want my longevity to be. And that way you're going to be much more apt to motivate me to take care of myself rather than telling me I'm skinny, because in that sense, I kind of get a part of me that this inner critic is activated and I maybe start to beat myself up like that. So starts with asking people about their intention. Well, why? Yeah. Why are you telling me that I need to be skinny? Like, what's your intention? And then, coaching them on how to communicate with you better. Then, Noel, if they're not meeting you on common ground, that relationship it's just not so much of an equal relationship. It's not such a productive relationship. And you kind of have to rethink, what's the effort or investment I want to make in this relationship? Because maybe it's just not right for you at this time.
That's a really hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, where, so there's a saying in the business world where if you're not able to walk away, then there's no form of negotiation possible.
None whatsoever.
So if you're in like a codependent relationship with someone where you just really, really need them in your life and you can't imagine your life without them, for one, that's a really difficult dynamic, because now it just makes it so hard to tell them how you really feel, to put up boundaries. Now, there's certain relationships where, like if it's you and your parents, or you and a sibling, or maybe, the mother or father of your kids, where obviously there's these strong connections there, and they're probably going to be in your life forever. But even in those situations, you can still have some kind of boundary, some kind of request to say, hey, when you talk to me in this way, this is how I feel. Can you please stop talking to me in that way? It would mean a lot. And when you say that from a place of certainty, clarity, strength, people do tend to listen. People do tend to respect that. And so on top of that, as Jim was saying, knowing the intentions is really, really a big part of that. When you are able to, talk to someone and that they're not just trying to hurt you, but they're trying to be there for you, then it kind of makes things easier.
We see Ennis's video is frozen. We're going to fix it. We're still here.
So
I want to go back to Cheryl. Cheryl was talking about that is where my panic attack started a year and a half ago. So I want to do two things real quick. I want to give Cheryl the panic response plan, because it sounds like she's struggling from panic attacks and having that. So Cheryl, if you'll private message us here on Facebook with your email, we're going to send you our book, The Panic Response Plan. And then Noel, we actually just developed, is that social anxiety course somewhere where somebody could grab it?
Yeah.
Let's give Noel the social anxiety course, because it talks a lot about deflecting. Cheryl was talking about driving. So yeah, Cheryl, we're going to send you the Panic Response Plan book. And Audiobook. It's an ebook and an audiobook. And then, Noel, we're going to send you the social anxiety course.
Because this is you said, this is more than something we can explain in a minute.
Yeah,
and it's more than something you can type in a minute. So the panic response plan is a very detailed explanation of what to do for panic attacks. The social anxiety course that Jim made is a very detailed breakdown of communication, interpersonal relationships, and so both of those are going to be super helpful. As we're going into the entire segment about all this, feel free to address any of those questions you might have about it, but please do reach out to us and we'll send you those as soon as we can.
Yeah, shoot us a message on Facebook, both of you. And Ennis is back. There he is.
Hello.
Your camera froze for a second. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, this is the first time that's happened. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff going on in the studio here, and it's really great. Let's scroll back. We had some comments that we missed here. Cheryl was saying panic attack started. Kate said very helpful. Thank you, Kate, so much. And Kate, shoot us a message if you want to get that free strategy session. You can email us in the emails below, or you can private message the Inner Solutions page here on Facebook, and we'll hook you up. Noel was talking. Sal said Cobra Kai. Cool, bro. Don't know what that means. And guys, we're trying to lighten up the mood here. We know this stuff is real serious, so don't let our jovial nature overshadow that we know you guys are suffering and we love you guys. We're here to help 100%. So we're trying to keep it light. We're trying to make a community here for people to share, and we're so glad people are.
I'm loving it. I like this. I like it.
You like the vibe today?
I think you're doing a great job of, keeping a serious topic serious, but still in a way that it feels good to talk about and not to be so heavy. You know what I mean? It's
all about the background. Noel's asking if there's a way you can connect with Ennis at some point. Noel, unfortunately, no, message us and we'll talk about it later. Cheryl's talking about work anxiety. That's interesting. I mean, so he was driving at first, now it's work anxiety. Cheryl, let us know what you do. But I can tell you that I had a recent client specifically who only had anxiety at work, and it was bad, really bad. And she would have these physical sensations, but what exacerbated the problem was she worked in kind of a back room with nobody. So she was scared that she was going to, pass out, die, and that nobody would ever know. And so we had to take time to, number one, explore, the basics, like how's your nervous system, how are you reacting to the panic attacks, what's going on there, do a little mining to see kind of the emotional side, what's adding to it. But she ended up taking about 30 days off of work, just taking a leave of absence and just recharging. And she felt great, but then when she returned to work, it sounds like it's starting to exacerbate again. So having that information is fantastic. But Cheryl, we'd love to gather some more information about your work situation to know, is there a specific thing that's triggering them? Is it stress related? Work at home, production has to be high with little errors, computer. Okay, so you work at home, your production has to be high with little errors. Are you doing data entry kind of stuff? Are you doing bookkeeping, something along with that? Is it a pressure-induced panic attack? Or is it a feeling stuck? Is there a clear trigger or not?
I've been on this note while you're giving us more context, Cheryl. I have been talking to a lot of people who have basically become unable to numb themselves anymore in terms of how much they hate their job. I think
we talked about this.
Yeah. Most people don't like their job.
Get 'em.
And I think that we've had a sort of culture that reinforces, well, that's normal that you don't like your job. That's normal somehow. And for many, many years in human history, people worked in terrible conditions doing things that, they didn't really like. And only recently have words like passion and, interest become introduced in our vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I think that there is starting to become more and more people who are developing anxiety and stress as a response to the fact that they just can't numb themselves anymore. They know they don't like their job.
Right.
They don't see it changing in the next year or two.
Yeah.
And so in the face of that, the body just starts to shut down to where it's like, I can't do this anymore.
Well, it's such a synergy and such its own kind of macro, larger scale feedback loop, right? So you're making do with a situation that sucks. So maybe you cope with some unhealthy coping mechanisms, or maybe it drains you energetically so that you don't have the energy to exercise, take care of yourself. And so you begin to spiral down into the feedback loop and things suck. And it's because it's such a slow burn, because it's manageable, it makes it even worse than something like a panic attack that lasts, 10, 15 minutes, So these are the most destructive by far. And so I'm curious. So Cheryl says, working at home, she's a process worker in compensation cases. Stephanie agrees. She says, me too. Working from home is the devil for me. Guys, is it working at home and being confined to your house, that restriction? Is it the work you're doing? I mean, it's really important to differentiate what the cause may be, because it's a very different if it's just from being trapped in the house than hating what you're doing and feeling like it's a waste of time.
Yeah. So be specific, what aspect of it. Wendy says, one thing I really like about you guys is your ability to mix some humor into the live streams and coaching. Yeah, thank you so much.
What's up, Wendy?
Also want to thank you for the YouTube videos. They're great. Oh, appreciate that.
Just started banging those out, Wendy.
Yeah.
Just for you, buddy.
For anyone here that's interested, we have a YouTube channel called, Inner Solutions. Look it up and it'll be there. We've got like 15 videos up right now, but we are posting a lot.
Yeah, we just started posting last week, so we're going to be pumping them out. Guys, the link to it is in the little blurb under the title of this live stream on Facebook. And we're streaming live on YouTube right now. Still waiting for that first YouTube chat comment.
It'll be there.
It's going to be a big deal.
It's going to be a really...
You're going to hear me scream. I'm going to be so pumped.
Thought-provoking question.
Yeah.
Stephanie says, being home takes you away from what life was. No social experience anymore. No lunch walks. No random conversations to break up the day.
Yeah.
That is a big part of it. Yeah. Like if your work was an escape from the monotony of your life, and seeing the people and getting out of the house was this ritual that kind of, shook things up a bit and got you out of your head, and you don't have that anymore, then yeah, it can be kind of weird. So if possible, if you can, try to fill that void by, I guess, just leaving the house when you can. I know it's tough if you have kids and if you have certain responsibilities, but the name of the game is you look at what need was previously being met that is no longer being met, and how could you now fill that need in a new way? So that's the pattern. You basically, again, you look at what do you... Jim's very excited.
Did you get distracted? We got some new angles. Sorry, but...
Jim's playing with me.
I know, you were giving such good information to him. Sorry. I just got excited. I forgot.
I love it. So as I was saying, before Jim got too excited, you had these needs that were being met from the routine. And when the routine changed, those needs were no longer being met. So that doesn't mean the end of the world. It just means that you got to identify those needs, get clear on what it was doing for you, and then replace it with something else. For me, that, when the quarantine happened, I stopped going to the gym. And I realized, like, oh man, that really had a big effect on me. When I stopped going to the gym, that made me feel pretty bad for a while. And then when I started working out indoors in my apartment, I started to feel better again. And so it was just recognizing, like, okay, I'm not doing the same workouts. I'm not doing the same thing, but I am getting my heart rate up a bit. I am lifting weights a little bit, using a pull-up bar. And that was enough to replace that need. For you, if like leaving the house, let me brainstorm on that for a second. If leaving the house to go to the job, to interact with everybody was something that took you out of that, then if possible, try to organize a activity that you can do outside. Maybe it's having lunch or dinner at a restaurant with good outdoor seating. Maybe it's going for a picnic with coworkers. Maybe it's doing whatever you can to fill that gap. Sometimes you got to be creative with it. So Cheryl says, I like the work. I love being home. It's just the requirements are so high. We are human. Got it. Okay, so there's a pressure.
That's hard. Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're at a high, a job that with the expectation of high, what's the word I'm looking for? Output. Nice. Yeah. I mean, that's common. It might be your nervous system has just been, you've been kind of choo-choo in a little engine that could without your energy for so long that you've just kind of sapped yourself dry, Cheryl. So, I mean, there's a couple things that you can do. There's actually a hell of a lot of things that you can do. One of the things is to just get really intentional and write down with a pen, literally write down what is happening when you feel those stressful moments. Like, what is it about the job that's stressing you out? Because we can't really point that blame outward. We have to point it inward, and not in like a self-deprecating way, but in a need to understand kind of way. Mm-hmm. What is it about the job that's draining you? Is it the person-to-person interactions? Is it being reprimanded? Is it the self-induced pressure? And once you identify what it is that's draining you about the job, then you can get really specific on, okay, well, I have this self-induced pressure. What am I scared of? Okay, am I scared of being reprimanded? Am I scared of losing my job? Am I scared of being embarrassed? Am I scared? Then you can get much more specific to more intentionally and more specifically identify the deeper fear there. Once you identify that deeper fear, you can just keep reining it in. I don't know why I can't talk right now. Yeah, Cheryl says all three. Exactly, Cheryl. So here's the beautiful thing. If you start to mine that stuff up and you identify it, that's gold. You're literally mining for emotional gold right there. So identify, well, what's going to happen if you get reprimanded? What's going to happen if you don't produce? And the other part of the job is what is draining you about the actual work. Is it the pressure that's draining you? The funny thing about work and being productive and all this stuff is actually, and there's a great book that a really close friend of mine wrote called An Oasis in Time. And the whole concept is that the more you push, it's not actually the more productive you are. It's finding the perfect balance of like rest, of pushing, of working. It's managing everything to find the perfect kind of homeostasis for you in whatever situation you are, Cheryl. So it's not like the more hours you work or the faster you work, the better you'll be. It's actually like, weirdly, the more you find the right time to take breaks and the right time to meditate, and the more when you catch yourself feeling that pressure, that you stop and rest, or whatever your kind of equation might be to optimize your productivity. It's not just about push or pressure or produce. And so working all this stuff out and understanding it is such an unbelievable journey and a way to be more productive with way less pressure and stress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely made sense.
Was that a complete thought? No, seriously, do I feel like I gave her, was there enough there to latch onto to know what the next steps are?
I feel like, I think there's two steps, and you really did a great job laying out the first one, which is getting clear on what part of the process are you getting caught up on. And the second part is actually,
you know what's so funny? The author of that book just called me.
No way.
Right this second.
No
Hand
way.
to God.
Are you serious?
Hand to God. The author of that book, Cheryl, which I rarely talk about, if never, just called. That's what that clink, clink, clink was.
God, that's so crazy. So
that happens all the time.
So, okay, what I was going to say is, if you identify all these internal causes of the pressure, and you start to take breaks, and you start to, judge yourself less, and all this stuff, and it's still just too much, then you can it's okay to look at the external and say, hey, can I talk to my boss? Can I talk to my manager? Can I find out what my reasonable output is and, get clear on expectations?
Yeah. That's a enormous point. Absolutely. It's like, there is a bunch of internal stuff you can do, but then there's just there's just situations that aren't right for you. And so then you can talk about, doing the external, talking to your boss, talking to people around you, petitioning for whatever you want or need. And then if that doesn't work, coming up with an intelligent exit strategy, which is like key. So figure out where you need your money to be, figure out how many applications you need to set out, and do this while you still have this job, because sometimes you just got to get the F out of there. And that's all there is to it. You've got to evolve into your next stage of life and don't be scared, because the next stage of life could be 8 bazillion times better than the stage of life you're in right now.
And it usually is. And it usually is better.
Well, you don't you don't usually change because you're happy. And this goes for romantic relationships, friendships, all that kind of stuff. I know, Stephanie, I agree. Wholehearted.
We got a comment on YouTube. Did I
It's from Noel. It's from Noel.
Counts.
It doesn't. I mean, I know it definitely counts, but we're looking for our unique YouTube watchers. But thank you, Noel.
That's great. Stephanie, your comment's long, and at the end it says
no, it's good. It's thorough.
It's great. I just what I was going to say is at the very end it sounds like he says, "Holy crap! I just realized where it stemmed from."
Yeah, you did it.
So I'm curious, like, if you want to share that, or
we'd love to hear it.
I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble identifying if this is just like a comment or a question.
We got to start taking calls on this. We're going to start taking calls soon. I took a call earlier today when I was streaming, and it was the best thing that's ever happened.
Okay.
It was a little long, but we just needed to start doing call-in shows, man, because it's like they can type, but we'll cover so much more ground.
You know what?
See it in. Are you nervous?
No, you know, it'd be great. You know what's that show where it's like the two car guys where like they call in and they diagnose the car problem. You know what I'm talking about,
yeah,
right?
It's like any call-in show.
Yeah.
There's bazillions of them.
Well, I'm down.
Yeah. So,
Cheryl, yeah, the 2 steps, again, just to summarize, because this is like, I particularly relate to this. I think I've definitely been there probably in the last year. I was there where you're in this position of, okay, there's a lot of pressure to do something, and there's many levels to it. Sometimes it comes from internally, like you are just putting that pressure on yourself. Sometimes you just need to move on to the next situation. Part of what procrastination is you just don't have the interest anymore. There's just no energy there, and there's no interest to do that thing anymore. And so it become what was something that happened naturally, and it was actually maybe even fun to do, or at the very least, it didn't take that much willpower, now suddenly becomes a burden, and it's really difficult to do. You have to force yourself, and it's a grind, and you can only do that for so long.
It's your soul's, if you feel burnt out, it's your soul's way of being like, dude, get out of here.
Yeah.
This sucks. And you can try, give yourself a fair chance to regroup, to explore what's draining you, but then eventually it's like, if you've had these conversations, she knows how stressed you are, nothing's really going to change, you're finding yourself stuck. It's not a blame game. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. It's just time to start, writing down, what do I need to do to get out of here, to minimize the anxiety of the transition and to put myself in a great position.
Now, if you are coming from the perspective of, I can't leave, or like there isn't another thing that I can do, that's like a whole video.
Yeah, that's like 4 hours of. Cheryl, what I would recommend is, if you haven't, I don't know if you're a client of Ennis's, I would recommend you just reach out, and we hop on a call and we figure out how to help you with the situation, give you the tools to deal with the panic, give you the tools to deal with the transition, because it's so, like, we're talking vaguely, but there's so many elements to like an intelligent exit strategy, and it has to be customized to you. And we could talk about some of them, things like I said, like saving, making sure you have enough money to bridge the transition, making sure your resume is ready, making sure and really think about, meditate, stew on, what do I want to be doing? Like, what did I like about this job? What elements do I want to keep? What elements do I want to change? That's what I'm saying, Cheryl. Just shoot us a message or an email, and we'll set up a free strategy session, because we just have to.
Yeah.
You can't even tell me if she's a client because of confidentiality.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to read your face. Because we don't breach confidentiality, bro. We respect it.
I need to get better on that kind of stuff, man.
What do you mean? Is this a conversation for
just
on the
like
air?
the legal things, like.
Oh, well, technically we're coaches, so you don't have a legal obligation to confidentiality, but if you tell the client, you definitely have a.
Right.
Yeah, that's like heavy personal information. Oh, Cheryl, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us. And guys, that goes for any new listeners, anybody who hasn't ever had a session with Ennis or I. Shoot us a message on Facebook to the Inner Solutions page, or shoot us an email to the emails below the title. in the stream description, and we will set you up with a free strategy session with one of us, whether you're suffering from anxiety, depression, whatever it is. Feel free to hop in with one of us because we want to help. And we do help, and we're damn good, if I do say so.
On that note of, let's say that you're in a situation where maybe it's a job, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a city, whatever it is. You're in a situation where you're not that happy, and you've kind of done what you can to make peace with it. You know, you've looked at your internal triggers. You've looked at how you can show up better and, you know, all that kind of stuff. At what point do you go, I really just got to get out and move on?
That I love that question because it's so relevant to me getting out of this major relationship that I was in. The relationship was, it taught me so much that I looked at it as like a learning and teaching ground, literally to the point where there was very little benefit to it by the time it eventually, you know, dissipated. I think that point is the point of, and for me, I didn't know this until I got out of this relationship, but when you have like the template for what you are, so like Ennis, you, as a free, open, receptive soul, when you feel like you're kind of flying your highest, when you notice that that's starting to dampen, you kind of have to set your own boundary of what compromises am I willing to make for this relationship? Are the gains still outweighing the liabilities? And that's it's kind of a vague question, and it's really case sensitive to the people. But if you're staying in it out of a fear, you gotta go. Like, you should really go, because that isn't going to give you the chance to adapt and overcome that fear. So if you're staying in a relationship because you're scared you're just going to be alone, like, while that might be a rational fear based on your history, instead of staying in the relationship, focus your energy on how to meet more people, how to grow socially, how to grow romantically. If it's a relationship that's causing you to close off, because you're gonna restrict yourself simply by being that closed off version of yourself of who you connect with romantically.
Right.
So you kind of have to judge for yourself, but I think a big piece of the gauging is like just when you notice when you're starting to be suppressed, you're not as adventurous, your energy's down, you feel like kind of drained all the time, maybe you're getting a little depressed, and it's lasting for more than like a few weeks. If we're going on like a month or a few months or longer than that, and also a big sign is if your partner, or if there's really no avenues you can take, if they're not open to going to counseling, if they're not open to different retreats or different, there's tons of stuff you can do. If your partner's closed off and you just feel like, well, this is the road, and you try to make peace, you explore, it's probably time to go.
And so the equivalent of that in the job situation is like, you've made the request to the boss. You've talked about, could we make some exceptions?
Yeah, you've kind of exercised where you've gone. You're kind of in diminishing returns at this point. You're not growing. You don't feel excited. And look, of course, work's not going to be exciting every day. But if you're going in, week after week and just like, this sucks. A clear sign is if you start to think about an exit strategy and you start to plan and you start to get excited about the possibilities. That's a clear sign. That's how you want to feel. And look, again, life is not this manic high all the time, but it shouldn't be suppressing kind of imprisoning war.
For sure. Stephanie says, so I started sleeping because...
Oh, my bad. Change the page right as you stop watching.
But what if I kept going?
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So she started not sleeping because she had a bad night of sleep and told myself I can barely get what I need to get done, which kept me up. And I kept not sleeping and kept thinking of how I'm failing at keeping up. And basically that led to the overwhelm, to a level where you didn't really understand until now. And now you have to figure out how to either not be overwhelmed or let go and be okay not being able to do everything. I think it's difficult. You mentioned you have a kid, you have a job, there's a lot going on, and so there is this pressure to be able to do everything. And so sometimes, it doesn't mean that you'll never be able to do everything, but there's going to be a week or two where you mentioned a client who took a month off.
You just took a leave of absence, yeah?
Yeah. And sometimes you need that.
We need these mini recharges, whether it's daily, monthly or yearly. Like we need vacations. We need to get out of the the recharge.
That's why meditation is so huge. It's
Totally.
the daily recharge.
It's a mini vacation, right?
Yeah.
From the thoughts and the whatever, the grind. Totally. So, I mean, I was thinking the same thing, is that, Stephanie, you need to pull yourself out to kind of refresh your perspective. And you need to kind of break whatever belief that is, that restricting belief of like, I have to get everything done, or I'm responsible for X, Y, Z, and just start to do some creative brainstorming. And if that's not happening, then you're going to need to kind of explore more deeply inside of you, like what is causing this stuff. So why do you feel like I'm the only one who can do this, or I'm the only one who can do that, or it's on my shoulders? It's like, nah, delegate
As much as you can.
Yeah.
For sure.
And just get creative with things like, change your budget around to get a babysitter for the kid, or just get yourself out of the situation as much as you can, as often as you can, so that you can recharge and see it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Rock that rigid perspective.
While we're waiting on another question to come in, I wanted to share, just if anybody doesn't do this, who's the musician? It's me. No, just kidding.
It's both
Jim.
of us.
It's
You play
Jim.
guitar,
I
too.
do not.
You play guitar.
I play flute. So, okay, I was going to say that...
Do you really play flute, by the way?
A little bit.
Wow.
Indian flute.
Indian flute?
Or Native American flute.
Recorder? Native American flute?
Yeah.
I think a flute's just a flute.
There's different types.
Right. There's a piccolo.
It's like diddle-little-loo versus like...
I play vertical flute. I like it.
That's a good one. So I was going to say there's a general practice that I recommend to everybody, along with meditation, is having some kind of journal where you write down everything you're grateful for at the end of the day. And so the point of it is, it has two purposes. Number one is, at the end of the day, or even at the beginning of the day, it's good to remind yourself of the good things in your life, so that you're not going into the future as much. You're not going into the future for some kind of happiness. You remind yourself of all the good things that are already there. You feel the gratitude. It's a good way to cancel out the anxiety, get present, and just feel good in general. So it's super useful for that. Number two, when you are writing down a gratitude journal and you write down 5 things, 6 things, and then when you start to have a trouble with remembering the good stuff, and you're literally straining, you're like, oh, what else happened that was good today? What else happened that was good today? And you're straining to remember. That is a form of training. You're basically training your reticular activation system, which is the part of your brain that decides what to focus on.
Show off with those fancy terms.
That's
dude.
right.
It just, the viewer count just got cut in half with that shit, that nonsense. Excuse me. No, I'm just kidding.
If you haven't looked at that, it's amazing.
It is actually amazing.
So, anyways, there's a part of your brain that decides what to focus on, and you're training it to focus on the good things, on the things that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And so people ask, how many things should I write down? I always say, keep writing until it becomes a strain, and then write a few more.
Yeah.
And that's the practice. So do that every day, and be amazed at what impact it makes within a few weeks.
Yeah, it's the same as exercising when you feel healthy already. But you're instilling, the muscles, you're maintaining. And even if you feel like you are grateful, to still practice it and try to expand upon it is, again, just, having a plan instead of being caught off guard. What's going on here? There we go. I fixed it, guys. Don't worry.
I was getting worried.
What do you think, Manny? You think we should wrap this up? Is there we want to give a couple minutes for any final questions, and then we'll have our final thoughts. But
I think final thoughts is give yourself time to recharge is the big one. A lot of the questions that we're seeing here is from people who are probably have a lot of pressure on them with a lot of their responsibilities, a lot of things on their to-do list. They're waking up and feeling like, man, how am I going to get done all these things? And the truth is, there may be days where you don't get everything done, but just try to get the really, really, really important stuff knocked out first, and then just take lots of breaks throughout the day to where every hour you're giving yourself a moment, 5 minutes even, just to sit there or just to take a breath. Take these little mini retreats, these mini vacations throughout the day as much as you can. Ultimately, it'll make a really big difference. That sounds like it's one of those things that it doesn't sound like it should work, but it does. It really does. Any other final things you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to go over the basics, which is as far as you as a person, you and this whole entity that is you, stop identifying with whatever, the anxiety, the this, the that. Just treat it like you're the kind of manager or mayor of the city. You're this whole city and the symptoms, and you've got a population, a bit of your population that's anxious, and they're very loud and they're very overwhelming. And start to look at it as an entity inside of you, and start to treat it with a lot of curiosity, a lot of compassion. Ask it questions. Do some meditating where you invite it in. And the key to all this is inviting it in. Invite the anxiety in. Invite the sensations in. When you invite them in and you challenge them and you release that resistance, you're releasing the resistance to these parts of you, to yourself, like different systems in your body. And it kind of flips the script on them a little bit, and you'll be amazed by some of the results. I just want to reiterate, if you guys are first-time listeners, shoot us a message here. If you're interested in the free training video, it's in the description underneath the title. If you're interested in the Panic Response Plan book, there's a link to it in the title below. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, shoot us a line here or send us an email, ennis@innersolutions.academy or jim@innersolutions.academy. Other than that, just lots of love, and just remember, no matter where you are, no matter how intense your anxiety or depression or panic or whatever mental health ailment you're going through, you are never, ever stuck, ever. We promise.